Thank you all again. It's such a pleasure to be here this afternoon and to share with you all a little bit about San Luis Obispo. As I mentioned before, I am the tourism manager for the city of San Luis Obispo. And so I get the great pleasure of being able to share our community, both with our residents that live here, as well as our visitors that choose to vacation with us. And most importantly, with all of you, either as students who may be making the decision to attend Cal Poly and to join our community here, and of course to you all as supporters, who we truly feel that as your student joins the Cal Poly community, you truly join our community, with San Luis Obispo being your home away from home. So I'm pleased to have you all here this evening. I am a Cal Poly alumni, so very proud Cal Poly alum. I had the opportunity while I was at Cal Poly to study what had formerly been called the Recreation, Parks, and Tourism program, surprise, surprise, but now called the Experience Industry Management. And I was one of the lucky few that were able to find my future here in SLO and never had to leave this wonderful place. So as we go through, I would love if any of you want to introduce yourselves in the chat. You've heard from all of us who will be presenting and chatting with you this afternoon, but feel free, have some little bragging time. Pop your name in the chat if you'd like, where you're from, and maybe if your student has already committed to Cal Poly, or if your student, or if you are the student, if you're still making your decision. We'd love to know, there's a lot of you in the room, and so we'd love to be able to, while we can't see you directly, we'd love to know who we're speaking with this afternoon. At the end of this presentation, we will have a Q&A portion. And so feel free to drop in any questions that you have. You can plug those into the chat, and myself and Chantal and Dusty we'll keep track of those, and at the end would be happy to talk through any questions that you have, because again, San Luis Obispo, truly will become your home away from home, and we want you to feel prepared and know and have all your questions answered as we go through this. And most importantly, we will have a grand prize at the end of this. And so, pay attention and take notes on what we're sharing with you. But at the end, we will be offering you an opportunity to enter to win a getaway giveaway for you all to be able to experience San Luis Obispo in person. And so great, I love seeing all of you plop into the chat, who you are, where you're from, and many of you what you're already planning to study and that you've been accepted and even committed. So love to see that. We're going to launch a quick poll because again, we want to know who we're chatting with. So you've been hearing lots about, and you will be hearing lots about the SLO community, not just in this session tonight, but as you go through open house over the next few days. So we want to know, have you been to San Luis Obispo before? So we know we're doing this virtually here today, but have you had a chance to visit SLO? Have you been able to come and see for yourself what we offer here in this community? So feel free to take the poll. And our great team with Cal Poly will be able to show us the results once we get a few of you in, so we can see. Awesome, and we know that this open house is a little bit of a different experience as we've all been living throughout this entire year, but there's no better way to really practice the Cal Poly way, to really learn by doing. And so, from the things that you learned this afternoon, we encourage you, when the time is right for you, to visit San Luis Obispo and see for yourself what makes this community so special. And as I've said before, this will be your home away from home. And so we're going to share with you this evening just a little taste of what SLO is, and share with you a little bit of our insider knowledge before you take that trip. Did we have the poll results, Val? Yes, okay, fantastic. So it looks like 68% of you have visited San Luis Obispo before, and 32 have not. So 32% of you, we look forward to seeing you soon. And the 68%, feel free to chime in. If you have other things as we're talking through that are your favorites, feel free to plop that in the chat as well. I know that everyone learning along with us likes to hear firsthand from other folks what their recommendations are. Great. So as we get to know SLO, really our culture, our community, and our lifestyle is really a huge piece of what makes our city so special. And so if we can go on to the next slide. Fantastic. And so Cal Poly's diverse programs, that they offer on campus, everything from architecture to engineering to agriculture. In that same kind of vein, our city is very similar, where we offer really a great mix of opportunities here in our community, from the people to the places, to the culture, to the lifestyle. And what we really find is that students who choose to live here, when they come and attend Cal Poly, they truly become part of the fabric of that community. And so our local community really embraces our student population. Our businesses love to have our students here and frequenting their restaurants and their shops and the different businesses that are open. And we really, value and appreciate even those big times of year, like move-in and open house and graduation and all those really monumental and momentous times that your student and you as supporters as well will be able to enjoy. So SLO really welcomes you. You can go on to the next slide. And so as we've said before, this San Luis Obispo, we truly want our destination, our place to be your home away from home. And what we like to tell our supporters is that, students, while they get to really make this their home away from home, we want you to know that you're welcome as well. And even if it's not just to see your Mustang. So what we have heard from such a large group of our parents and supporters, sometimes even after their students graduate, they still make those annual visits to San Luis Obispo, because you become part of the community. What we've heard from many of our supporters is when they connect with hotels that they're staying at or with restaurants that they frequent, they get to know the folks at those properties just like they would in their own hometowns. And so we truly want you to know that SLO welcomes you, and you don't have to make it just a time to visit your Mustang to come back and see us again and again. While we know that during this time, we can go on to the next slide. We know that during this time, all of our communities, whether you're here in San Luis Obispo or all throughout the country and the world, we've seen lots of changes over the past year. And SLO has made it a priority to keep our students, our community, and our visitors feeling safe when they're having fun and being able to support our local businesses. So San Luis Obispo is incredibly proud to be working together as a community to keep that health and safety of that community as our #1 priority. You've also seen some new things that have been able to unfold and to become a reality here in San Luis Obispo during this time, including some amazing parklets that we have throughout our downtown now. We've also, over the course of the past year, added additional bike lanes, and so there's safety in traveling if traveling by bike is your preferred mode of transportation. And we've created more space for art in our community, as well as created opportunities for pop-up experiences as well. And so we hope that when you do have the opportunity to make the visit here into San Luis Obispo, you take advantage of checking out some of those different components. So the lay of the land is always important for you when you are checking out a new destination. So we can take a look at the next slide, and we'll be able to see a map that really showcases some of the reasons that make San Luis Obispo so special, and also kind of its proximity and the incredible ease that it offers to be able to get around town. What folks really love to talk about in San Luis Obispo is that it really is a lifestyle when you choose to come here to Cal Poly. We've got students who say, that their best way of waking up in the morning is to go out and take that morning hike before they head into class, or maybe in the afternoon, maybe they're picking up some surfing and they want to head out to the beach after classes are done for the day, or kind of in between maybe an afternoon break. And when our parents and supporters come into town, they find it pretty fun to be able to head over into our wineries and check out our wine country. And together, everyone as a family really enjoys being able to stroll our farmers markets while our Thursday night farmers market, which we'll be hearing more about from Whitney, is definitely one of the most popular and more, of an experience. We have farmers markets almost every day of the week throughout our county, which provides great opportunities for that fresh connection to local produce here in San Luis Obispo. So as you can kind of see by this map, San Luis Obispo is a pretty small town itself. It's about 10 square miles from side to side, so a pretty small kind of area in general. We have incredible hiking trails that pretty much you can access from any point throughout the community that you would like. You can also see from this map, we've got some great kind of other attractions, things like the Sunset Drive-In, one of the last drive-ins in the country. Of course, our Bubblegum Alley, which people just cannot miss. You've got to make your mark when you're ready. And of course, some of the local favorites like SLO Doco, which I know that many of our students really enjoy, a 24-hour donut shop where they can go and enjoy some of the delicious treats there as well. So Cal Poly itself is just about a mile and a half from the Mission, which is really that core, that heart of downtown. And so really close proximity to a lot of what's going on in our community. On our next slide, we can talk a little bit about our top things to do. So I've talked a lot about kind of our outdoor adventures, and really it's outdoor adventures, it's our food, it's our shopping. That's really our jam when we're talking about San Luis Obispo. There's so many experiences that you can try out for yourself. We're going to talk about just a short few of those. But again, feel free to plug in any suggestions from so many of you that have already been here if I don't get to all of them, because I'm sure I will not. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of different things going on here. We can go to the next slide where we can talk a little bit about our open space. So here in our community, it's pretty special because we've got that proximity to those hiking and mountain biking trails that are really safe and really close proximity to Cal Poly and to downtown. We've got hiking and biking trails that really can cover all levels, from a casual stroll to steep peak inclines, depending on what you're looking to adventure and to experience. The city has an expansive natural resources program, and so what that allows us to do is that we are fully surrounded by open space. So here in San Luis Obispo, we call it our green belt. We kind of joke that we may grow up a little bit, but we're never going to grow out because our green belt and that protected open space that's accessible to our visitors and to our residents, kind of keeps us in kind of our core area. Within that green belt, there are over 7,000 acres of open space land that is owned by the city and accessible, over 40 miles of hiking and biking trails within that as well. So a great opportunity to be able to get out and to experience San Luis Obispo from some of those places as well. It's a great way to get outside and to find those healthy activities for your Mustang. And I'm sure what you will find is as soon as you come for your first visit, your Mustang will likely have their favorite hike that they want to take you on to be able to show that off the next time you arrive in town. So another great thing, as I mentioned before, heading out to nearby beaches is another great opportunity. So beaches are about a 10 to 20 minute drive, which makes it for great day trips. Now, to be honest, while through San Luis Obispo, you're able to access so much, it's incredibly walkable, or like I mentioned, biking, you can definitely bike a lot of places. Heading out to the beaches is definitely something that you would want to be able to take transportation to, whether that be public transit or if you do have a vehicle and you're able to drive out to the beaches as well. It's far enough outside of town that will make that pretty necessary. However, I will caveat that by saying that our community just received a pretty significant grant that is going to be supporting over the course of the next few years a trail that will actually connect you from downtown SLO all the way out to Avila Beach. So we're pretty excited for the last portion of what we call the Bob Jones Trail to be completed. And for your Mustangs that may be committing for the next 4 years, we are hopeful that work will be able to take place during their time here. In addition, we can't forget to talk about our weather here in San Luis Obispo. So we know that we like to say that we've got that perfect California 72 pretty much, all around the year. Those cool mornings and cool evenings and some of the most amazing sunny afternoons. But of course, we are biased, but the temperatures and the climate here is pretty incredible. Our temperatures do vary from about, as low as 50 degrees during kind of our winter time periods, all the way up to 80s, into the 80s during the summers. We like to say that we have about 315 days of sunshine each year. So do that math and you can tell, how many rainy days we have here in San Luis Obispo. So on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about hiking and biking. I've kind of mentioned to you a little bit about biking. San Luis Obispo has been designated as a bike-friendly community all the way back since 2007. So within our community, our bicycle network is over 60 miles that includes bike paths, bike lanes, and on-street facilities. So what that means is here in San Luis Obispo, biking, cycling is not just a means of exercise or entertainment. It's really a form of transportation in our community. And in order to help encourage that and to make sure that folks feel safe as they're riding their bikes through town, the city has installed, as I mentioned earlier, new bike trails and bike paths. And so when you come into San Luis Obispo, one of the things you will notice are the green bike paths, even through our downtown area, that really call out the bike lanes while they run side by side with traffic. And so it's a really great encouraged way that if your student is not bringing a vehicle when they come to Cal Poly, it really is a way of life to be able to ride your bike here as well. So in addition to that, there are some great mountain biking trails that are available. So, if you're not road biking or taking your cruiser to go from one side of town to the other, a pretty popular thing for our community here is mountain biking. So a few of the great mountain biking trails that are available include Johnson Ranch, which is shorter and kind of has some extended options that you can take if you're trying to look for something that maybe would fit both for hikers as well as bikers. There's also the South Hills open space or the Irish Hills open space. And if you're looking for more of cyclists and kind of, something you can take more of a street bike on, as I mentioned, our Bob Jones City to Sea Trail, that's about 3 miles. Right now, that's not fully connected on a secured path. And so there is some street riding that would be involved in that. We also have our Railroad Safety Trail, which is a great kind of way to pass from downtown out along the train tracks and to be able to cruise to the other side of town along a pretty secure and safe trail. And you can always head out if you're more of an adventurous cycler, you can head out and ride up Highway 1 as well. If you're looking for some of the most picturesque cycling opportunities out there. So let's head on to the next slide. And so with some of the hiking trails, there are quite a number. We've got a great list if you head to visitslo.com where you can take a look at some of those hiking trails. It includes hiking trails as well as being able to plug in and find out where those mountain biking or some of those other trails are available as well. So check out visitslo.com and you can take a look at some of those hiking trails on there. We would like to remind you to watch for the trail signs because some of them are not are designated to be kind of in singular directions. And so make sure you look for that so you know by the trail markers, where kind of the start and the end specifically around some of those loops as you navigate those new directional trails. So on to the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about downtown. And I know Whitney is going to be giving you a ton more information about what her organization does to support the community. But I would be remiss if we didn't touch on it within this as well. So It's pretty safe to say that incredible shopping and incredible food are pretty much synonymous with San Luis Obispo, and specifically our downtown. And downtown definitely does not disappoint as the epicenter of all of that here in San Luis Obispo. So Whitney is going to be sharing with you a great map later on, so you'll be able to kind of get a lay of the land specifically for downtown. But downtown is really kind of made up of three main streets: Monterey Street, Higuera Street, and Marsh. And it's really accessible. So for families and that are traveling in, we've got some parking structures that are available so that you can park in some of those and have great accessibility all throughout downtown. As I also mentioned, riding your bike into downtown is a great option as well, with lots of parking for your bike. And as events come back into play here in San Luis Obispo at some point, one of the cool things that's offered at many of the things that take place in the downtown includes our bicycle valet. So believe it or not, we do have a service where you can park your bike as you would at some of the other, kind of valet for your car, and they'll be able to hold on your bike and make sure that that it's safe while you're enjoying the things happening downtown. Also in downtown, we have a great creek that flows through, and so it's fun to walk along that and kind of get a sense from a different view of San Luis Obispo. You can see some of our incredible public art along the creek as well. And even in the winter months, you may be able to spot a steelhead trout or two. So they do actually make their way all the way from Avila Beach up through the creek in downtown. So as we head on to the next slide, we do have a range of restaurants in our downtown and throughout our city, from the iconic Copper Cafe at the Madonna Inn to incredible family-owned Italian restaurants. And of course, it wouldn't be San Luis Obispo if we didn't share with you some of the farm fresh, kind of that farm to table style restaurants. Some fun things to know about our restaurants is here in San Luis Obispo, we have a thing about our sandwich shops. And so as your students join our community here, I'm sure you will be invited into this sandwich shop war that continues to go on. Everyone has their favorites, and you can only know what your favorite is by trying them all. So we hope that you find some time to be able to check out whether it's Lincoln Deli or High Street Deli or Gus's. Try out some of the different sandwich shops and you can weigh in for yourself. In addition, here in San Luis Obispo, we have no drive-through restaurants. We have no drive-throughs here in San Luis Obispo. So it's pretty unique to our community. Not only does it help our environment, but it also gives us that opportunity to connect a little bit more. And so just because we don't have any drive-throughs, you can still accessibly get some quick to-go food. Especially now, many of our restaurants have incredible to-go menus to make it pretty easy to be able to get quick food to go. Many of our local chefs also head out to farmers markets throughout our community and throughout our county for that fresh seasonal ingredients, so they can continue to make the best dishes for anyone enjoying something from their favorite sandwich shop, if you will, all the way up to some of our more fine dining restaurants. And now San Luis Obispo has, for the first time, some rooftop restaurants with some amazing views. So one of those would actually be at Hotel SLO. They have a new restaurant and bar called High Bar, which has a fantastic bocce ball court upstairs as well, that you can check out some of the most incredible views of San Luis Obispo from those rooftops. So as I also mentioned, while a lot of the folks on this presentation will probably not be at a place where they're enjoying our wine country quite yet, for our parents and supporters, the proximity to wine country is something that's pretty special within our eating and drinking community for San Luis Obispo as well. So in San Luis Obispo, we've got SLO Wine Country. It's also called the Edna Valley. That area has over 40 tasting rooms, and it's only about 10 minutes drive from downtown. Really focuses on it has the longest growing season for wines in California, for grapes in California, and really focuses on wines like Pinot Noirs, Chardonnays, and some of those incredible aromatic white wines. So how to get here? And so on the next slide, I'll share with you a little bit about how to get to San Luis Obispo, either for parents that are coming to visit their students or supporters coming to visit their students, or for students who are making the trips for themselves. So we do have an airport here in San Luis Obispo, and that airport has a number of nonstop daily flights from multiple cities across the United States. It's a pretty incredible airport. It has a fantastic outdoor waiting space. However, due to some of the impacts from COVID on air travel, we have seen kind of a little bit of a shift right now in what the air services that are being served. So currently we have direct nonstop daily flights from Phoenix, San Francisco, Dallas, Denver, and Seattle. In the coming weeks, we will be welcoming back the return of flights, daily flights to and from LAX from Los Angeles. And then in June, service will restart from San Diego, and we'll also begin for the first time direct nonstop daily flights from Portland. So quite a number of flight options for families and for students that may be outside of California. We also have a train that's here in San Luis Obispo as well. So Amtrak does service San Luis Obispo. The main station is just about a half a block from downtown, or half a block from downtown, or maybe about a mile from campus. The travel to and from Southern California is what's on the Pacific Surfliner, and travel to and from Northern California is on the Coast Starlight. And so those could be some good options for students and for supporters as well. If you're traveling by Amtrak, especially for our students, make sure you take a look for the Cal Poly stop. So what this means is while you will arrive into the main station, which is just outside of downtown, you will actually hop on a bus that will take an Amtrak bus that will take you from the main station over to Cal Poly and will drop you off right in front of the Performing Arts Center. So that's a great option instead of having to either get another ride or take some other sort of shuttle. That Cal Poly stop will actually make that transfer for you. So next up, for the supporters coming into San Luis Obispo, we'll share with you a little bit about where to stay. So we have about 40 different lodging properties here in the city of San Luis Obispo, over 2,400 rooms. So there's really room for everyone here in the city of SLO. We've kind of got, as you can see by this map, kind of three main areas that the hotels are located. The first one is Monterey Street. That's the closest proximity to campus. It essentially kind of dead ends Grand Avenue, which would be your access on and off of campus, dead ends into Monterey Street. So that's a great, really close proximity to both campus and downtown. In addition, we have a number of properties that are available now in our downtown, including two of our high-end luxury properties that are our newest properties in San Luis Obispo. And then we also have our properties that are just off of kind of on the other kind of southern side of town along Madonna Road or Los Osos Valley Road, where we've got a grouping of hotels there. In addition, we have a new property that is currently being built within the city. And so that is a Town Place Suites. And that property is expected to open in either May or June. So be on the lookout for that if you enjoy staying at some of those Town Place Suites types properties. On the next slide is some information on our SLO Visitor Center. And this is a great resource for you. You all met Dusty earlier on in this presentation, and Dusty and his team staff the Visitor Center and are always available 7 days a week to answer any questions that you may have. So this 1877 number right on here, 1877 SLO Town, is staffed by our friendly visitor information specialists, and they can answer any questions you have about, suggestions for places to eat or things that you need to help support your student, or even, if you're looking for places to stay and you'd like some suggestions or some advice, they can help you by using that phone number as well. In addition, we know that there are some really traditionally busy times that are often associated with Cal Poly events. Things like move-in or graduation or slow days, those different types of time periods. And so if you ever find yourself in a bind or you're looking for a place to stay, give us a call on this phone number, 1-877-SLOW-TOWN, and our visitor information specialist will be happy to help you. We keep the most up-to-date inventory personally with the hotels, so we always know where the very last room in the city is still available. So give us a call and we'd be happy to point you in the right direction. Next up is to stay connected. So lots of ways to continue to find what is going on here in San Luis Obispo and what is happening in our community from a locals perspective. So we invite you to follow along on Share SLO, either on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and you can see what's happening here in our community. Another great way to stay connected and to learn more is to sign up for our newsletter. So later on in the chat, later on in the presentation, we're going to drop into the chat the link to register for the newsletter. And just so you know that by signing up for the newsletter today during this call, we will also be able to select our grand prize giveaway winner from those of you who sign up to receive our newsletter through that link. And so with that, I believe that it's time to turn it over to Whitney to share with you a little bit about downtown and the work of Downtown SLO.
Thank you, Molly. That was so great. We work super close with the city of SLO. So some of the stuff you might hear from me might sound like you've already heard it, but that's kind of the beauty of our partnership is that we work beautifully together and we're able to put on these programs. My name is Whitney Cheney. I was born and raised in San Luis Obispo. Both of my parents attended Cal Poly. My sister currently attends there. I used to work on campus at the Performing Arts Center, and I have grown up going to games, programs, all sorts of the available resources on campus. So even though I did not go there myself, I feel like I did in a way. Currently, I work for Downtown SLO. It is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to foster an economically vibrant downtown. Our organization is made up of the fee-paying businesses who operate within our predetermined boundaries, volunteer members, civic collaborators, residents, and visitors like you. Next slide. As part of our mission to foster an economically vibrant downtown, we host several free events throughout the year, including our famous Thursday Farmers Market. More on that later. We also hold concerts in the plaza, which happens in the summer and is usually about 13 weeks of a free concert every Friday. We have holiday happenings like Santa's House, the Carousel, window decorating contests, and our holiday parade, which features over 80 different floats. We have an event called Sip and Saunter, which usually happens in September, which pairs our downtown businesses with food and drink offerings for you to enjoy as you wander the streets of downtown and get to know our local merchants. We've also started in our second year this year, the Mayflower Initiative. It will be sprouting up as of May 1st. It will include over 80 downtown businesses who have been paired up with local artists who will be painting their windows with flowers. It's a beautiful art exhibit, and I encourage everyone to, if you can make it into San Luis Obispo in the month of May to check it out, please do, because it's a beautiful artwork. We also host a lot of education series, which are free to our downtown members. If you choose to come to San Luis Obispo and be a student and you work downtown or you're somehow affiliated with a downtown member, you're included in that group and it would be free to you. But we're also happy to talk to you about what other programs are available to you through our program. Our events and outreach efforts are on behalf of our downtown community, which includes you as a visitor and hopefully as a resident. We hope that when we are able to resume these fun events that you are able to join us. Next slide. As a nonprofit, we are always in search of good hands to help us out, make these events part of your itinerary for the weekend. We have several opportunities throughout the year for you to join us, whether as a volunteer or as an intern. We work closely with the RPTA group. Throughout the years, we weren't able to do it during COVID, but we do usually have around 6 or so interns every quarter that we bring in to help with our different programs. Some of the events we offer are volunteer cleanup days, our downtown forester program, which is really cool. You get to go through and help prune the trees, keep them healthy. One of the beautiful things about our downtown are these fabulous trees that you'll just see lining the streets. It's very rare that you will see a photo of downtown SLO that does not have a beautiful tree in it, which I think is really cool. One of our more popular volunteer opportunities is being a Santa elf. So you can actually, during the holidays, join us. We have Santa's house in Mission Plaza. Kids can come visit Santa for free, and as an elf, you help with taking photos, help them get their activity books. It's a really heartwarming and fun experience. So if you are around for the holidays, we encourage you to join us for that. We have some opportunities at the Thursday Farmers Market as well, helping us be a market ambassador. Beyond just farmers market, within that, we do have special events, which include things like snow night, Halloween costume contests, the bunny trail, and so much more. And we always are looking for people to help us out for those opportunities. We have internships, like I mentioned, which focus on these special events. And if there's something that you think maybe there would be an opportunity for you, one of the beauties of our organization is that we love to talk to students, find out what kind of experience they're looking for, and see if there's a way that we can meet that within the organization. Our volunteer and internship opportunities beyond that are just a great way for you to get to know the town that you're living in, connect with your community, connect with your peers, and just get to know, if you're going to spend 4 years here, it's a fun way to get to know the ins and outs. Next slide. And now for the big news. Maybe some of you have heard of our farmers market, maybe some of you haven't. In normal times, it is 5 blocks of 120 vendors, live entertainment, delicious food. But the big news right now is that although we've been quiet for a year due to COVID, we are pleased to announce that we are coming back Thursday, May 6th from 6 to 9 in a limited capacity. So the first phase of our market that will start on May 6th will feature around 20 of our farmers selling fresh local produce, as well as some staple goods such as bread, canned kombucha, to-go tamales, kettle corn, and more. The market will require visitors to wear masks at all times, and no eating or drinking will be allowed within the market boundaries. While we're excited to be able to return in this limited capacity at first, we do look forward to expanding as we're approved to do so. We hope that you'll join us on May 6th and the weeks after. We do run every Thursday, 6 to 9, unless it's a major holiday. Next slide. And I apologize, I'm in my office, so you might hear some noises behind me. All right, as a final note, I do want to thank you for the opportunity to let me tell you a little bit about downtown. There's so much to discover, and I could probably talk forever. We have an office downtown. I encourage you to stop by or reach out to us. I'll put some contact information in a bit. The map you're looking at is our points of interest map. We do have it on our website. I will link that in the chat. So if you want to print this points of interest map while you're here, it's a fun way to kind of create your own tourist route and just enjoy experience. There's so much art and history around. Also, I'm pretty sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, Molly, but if you are a student at Cal Poly, you do get a bus pass for free that will give you good access to downtown. So a lot of our interns have taken advantage of that. It is a good perk as a student. So if you do join us, I hope you do know that you can get to downtown for free, which is super cool. It's down the street, might be a little bit of a walk, but also totally doable. It's also a great way to stretch your legs. You can ride your bike, but if you want to take the bus, free is always a nice thing to have. While you are downtown, we do remind you, please wear your masks, maintain your 6 foot of distance if you're not with your immediate group. Next slide. And here's the last, all the contact information you would ever want to know. Please follow us on Instagram. We have 3 different channels. Downtown SLO is our main one. Downtown SLO Farmers Market will be all things farmers market, and concerts in the plaza. Once we're able to resume, we'll have highlights on the live music and what you can expect. You can also reach out to us at the office, 1135 Choro Street, right downtown. Give us a call, send us an email, or see you at Farmers Market. And with that, I am done.
Thank you, Whitney. We really, really appreciate that. So the moment that you all have been waiting for, the Learn by Doing giveaway. As I mentioned, we do have a giveaway from our partners here today to help you be able to experience San Luis Obispo and truly learn by visiting all the things that we've suggested to you. Through this, we're going to drop into the chat. There you go. Chantal just dropped into the chat the link, a SurveyMonkey link to the giveaway. And so by registering here, you will be able to sign up for both our SLO newsletter as well as information from Yes Cocktail. The grand prize will include a $500 voucher to be able to use towards any SLO lodging property here in the city of San Luis Obispo. And so, yes, that's $500 that you will be able to use towards the hotel of your choice here within the city. between now and the end of the calendar year. So between now and December 31st of this year, 2021. In addition, it will provide one of the cocktail kits, one of the Welcome Mustang cocktail kits, as well as some other San Luis Obispo goodies, because you always need your swag for all things San Luis Obispo. So feel free to click that link, and we will make sure that that you all have access to this as well. So you can go ahead and sign up to receive more information. So with that, I think it's now time to open it up to Q&A. I know there's a bunch of questions that have come in. I was trying to go through as Whitney was sharing with you all. So some of the questions that I saw in the chat, but again, feel free to pop more in. And Belle, I'm not sure if we are opening it up for direct, just either chat Q&A, or folks can raise their hand and we can call on them that way. But some of the questions so far, is there traffic in SLO? So I guess it depends who you ask and where you're coming from. So San Luis Obispo, we do have popular driving times at different points of the day, but I am a Southern California native, and I can tell you there is no traffic in San Luis Obispo compared to the traffic that I have experienced elsewhere in California. But the good news is that there's always ways to get around. One of the big things that our community is focused on is being able to reduce our carbon footprint. And one of those options and solutions is really to be able to provide our residents, including your students, with public transit options to be able to get around San Luis Obispo. And so another question was about public transit. What is public transit like in San Luis Obispo? So public transit is a fantastic option for getting around town. During the time of COVID, obviously public transit rates and ridership was really down. And so with that, there were less routes that were available just based on there weren't needs for them. But as we see more of the community opening up and more of our students returning to San Luis Obispo, and especially planning for the fall, we do anticipate that our public transit options will fully return as they have been in years past. And our public transit sees well over 1 million riders a year traditionally. So for a population of about 50,000 here in San Luis Obispo, I think that gives you a little bit of perspective on the popularity of our public transit here in SLO. Dog beaches. We do have dog beaches here, not in the city of San Luis Obispo, because we of course don't have a beach in the city of San Luis Obispo, but a couple of nearby dog beaches, both in Avila Beach, as well as north of us in Morro Bay, right outside Morro Bay. There are a couple great options for you to be able to take your dog to run on the beach. In addition, we also have a number of dog parks here in the city of San Luis Obispo. And one of which is over at Laguna Lake Park, which is actually it has a leash-free dog park. So you're able to, kind of open up, take off the leash once you get inside the gates and allow your dogs to be able to run around freely. And for those of you who are traveling with your furry friend, many of our hotels, the majority of our hotels do accept pets, do accept dogs. And in addition to that, we also, pretty much dogs are welcome at the majority of our restaurants, especially in our downtown as well. Some of the restaurants even have secret menus that are specific for your furry friends that join you at dinner. So something to be on the lookout for there too. Another question was about swimming pools. And so I think Cal Poly and the team from Cal Poly can kind of address the swimming pools on campus. But many of our hotels here in the city do have swimming pools as well. And so if that question is related to hotels, the majority of the properties do have swimming pools. At visitslo.com, you can actually go on to the hotel section and you can filter by the amenities you're looking for, one of which may be swimming pools, which will help you identify what pools, what properties do have pools. Also, the city of San Luis Obispo has a public pool at Sinsheimer Park. And so that is available for a small use fee. to be able to swim laps or have free swim depending on the different times during the day. Then there were some questions about Amtrak. And so the question was about Amtrak tickets and how much do those cost? And so you will have to go on, of course, just like many other travel bookings. They vary by date and by time and by distance and all of that. So for example, I think the question was about Los Angeles. If you looked at what an Amtrak ticket would be from one way from LA up to SLO, up to Cal Poly, would probably be, anywhere from $50 to $75. And so that's always an option. Students do get discounts. And so I would highly encourage you to encourage your student to take a look and use their student ID to be able to access those discounts. In addition, supporters can take advantage of discounts as well by booking through Car Free SLO. And there's a 20% off discount for Amtrak by booking through Car Free San Luis Obispo. So those are some of the questions that I saw from earlier on. So questions about safety in San Luis Obispo. And so yes, San Luis Obispo overall is an extremely safe community. I would say it's always safe to be able to be traveling in numbers, regardless of where you are. San Luis Obispo is a college town, as we all know, and as we're discussing. And so I always would encourage any group of students or residents, regardless of being students or not, that it's always safer in numbers. And so it's always better to be able to walk around and to be moving through town with more than one person. I know that on campus, and maybe the Cal Poly team can chime into this, but if there's a need to get from one side of campus to the other, I know that there's some shuttle options that are available as well. And so that would be something to look into for your student as well. So the average drive time from LAX to San Luis Obispo is about 3.5 hours. And so that's about the time it takes you to LAX, down to San Diego, it's about 5 hours, up to San Francisco, it's usually around 4 hours, and San Jose is around 3.5 as well. And so regarding the bus times, I would suggest, as I mentioned, I would encourage you to take a look. We can drop a link in the chat to all the public transit information. But again, as we return to a normal cycle of usership and need for bus routes, the times of those routes will be changing and will be open later in the day, including transportation from the airport into town as well. So the buses from campus do not go to the beach. If you were trying to take a bus from campus, you would actually go to the downtown transit center and switch from a city transit bus over to one of the county transit buses to be able to get outside of the city limits. Let's see what else. SLO restaurants and student discounts. So oftentimes there are different discounts. You can just ask restaurants. I don't know that there is a one location that has kind of all the discounts in one spot. But oftentimes if your student shows their ID, many of the restaurants, especially many of our to-go restaurants will say, let us know if you're a student, show us your ID and be able to get a discount. So I would encourage your student to ask about that. And there is a number of different types of fitness facilities in and around San Luis Obispo. So there's some questions about boxing and MMA gyms in San Luis Obispo. And so boutique fitness is a booming industry here in San Luis Obispo. Many of you may have even heard of the business MindBody, which is actually a way to book workouts at many of those facilities. That's actually a San Luis Obispo based company. And so there definitely are a number of options for various types of boutique fitness, anything from specific boxing or MMA or CrossFit or cycling studios, yoga studios, pretty much all you can, pretty much any that you can name. I would encourage you, if you are a user of an app like MindBody, to go on and search the location. So search San Luis Obispo to be able to find some options there. There's a couple of questions about diversity in San Luis Obispo. And so in San Luis Obispo, while our population, I don't have the exact division of the numbers, while we don't currently have an extremely diverse population here in San Luis Obispo, our community is extremely committed to being able to support and to serve our diverse populations in San Luis Obispo. And so there are a number of measures that are going on here in San Luis Obispo to be able to encourage communication, education, and information to be able to share San Luis Obispo amongst diverse populations. I can share for you all, if you're interested in seeing a little bit about what the work plan for that is, I can drop in some information about our recently adopted city's major city goal for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That also includes the formation of an advisory body within our city, specifically dedicated to the work in this area. And so that we can continue to welcome populations of all types here in San Luis Obispo and make San Luis Obispo a welcoming place for all. There are a number of questions for the Cal Poly side of the team that are in the chat. And so it looks like I've covered a lot of the questions for San Luis Obispo. I didn't know if the Cal Poly team had any additions that they would like to add as I catch up on some more of these questions.
Thank you so much, Molly. You're doing a great job. I have a few questions that were private messaged me. And about the housing questions, there is a housing session on Sunday at 12 during Coffee House. And those would be the best time to ask those questions, just because that is really a specific housing. But if you have any specific to downtown, please keep asking them. We love all your questions. But I did get a great question of, can you recommend some fun things to do when you are under 21?
Definitely. There's lots to do when you're under 21 here in San Luis Obispo. So I shared with you a lot about our incredible hiking and our incredible biking and our outdoor experiences, our proximity to the beaches. Now with the return of having farmers market back in our community. In addition, some of the fun nightlife experiences that we have here in San Luis Obispo include, of course, our Sunset Drive-In. And so being able to go almost any day of the week over to the drive-in and be able to watch a movie from your car is a pretty great experience as well. In addition, we have opened what's called night hiking. And it only takes place during certain times of the year, but folks that are interested in being able to do an evening hike or like a sunset type hike, you can actually register to receive a permit and then be able to hike Cerro San Luis during the evening hours. And so that's a really fun thing to do as well. And I know Cal Poly offers an incredible array of experiences right on campus, from things like the bowling alley to so many of the other options in the UU that I know that there are some great options on campus as well to be able to enjoy in the evening hours when you're under 21 as well.
Amazing, thank you. Another question, kind of, I think going off what Whitney said a little bit and about her presentation, but are there internship opportunities around the downtown area, and how should they go about getting those internships?
Yes, I'll take that one. Yes, there are. So with Downtown SLO, there's definitely internship opportunities available. Over the past year, due to COVID, we were not offering them. But we're excited to get back to it. So if you are interested in interning with us in terms of our special events, with some public space programming downtown, whatever the case may be, feel free to reach out to us. I'll put an email in the chat that you can contact. And you can also come to our office, 1135 Choro. I think a few of you have found our Instagram. You can always direct message us that way. But we do have an ongoing internship program. So we encourage you to reach out. We found that it's a great way for people to meet other majors. So a lot of people, I know if you're in one major, you get to, you're kind of with your people and in that tract. And We've had like lifelong friendships come out of our internships. They always come back and visit us. It's super fun and rewarding for us too. We get to be a part of your experience here. So definitely reach out. I will put the email in there right now. But if you have any questions about internships right now, feel free to ask them.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I know that we got a lot of great information about recommendations, but we did get someone who wanted to know what was your personal favorite like activity around SLO. So it could be like I think, yeah, it looks like they asked about like hiking trails or beaches, just like a personal favorite.
I'm not supposed to share my personal one top favorite because I can't have just one here in San Luis Obispo. But I would say one of my most favorite new experiences in SLO right now, and maybe I'll put Whitney on the spot. Maybe Dusty and Chantal want to chime in about theirs as well, so you can get a different perspective from all of us. But one of my favorite new experiences is our plaza pop-ups. And so right in the heart of downtown SLO, we have Mission Plaza, like we've talked about. And Mission Plaza right now gets transformed every month. And so from now until the end of August, each month we're partnered with a different nonprofit organization that will help bring kind of some public art to life. And so currently, Saloma, our San Luis Obispo Museum of Art, is featured. And they partnered with an incredible artist, Lori Shapiro, who created basically this immersive art piece that you walk into and you can actually look above and beyond and around, and there's some really interesting lighting fixtures that are hung. It's called Through the Flowers, and it's pretty incredible to go and look at. And then that will be up through the end of April. Then in May, our partners at Downtown SLO have actually partnered with Cal Poly to be able to work with the Rose Parade float team to create an installation called May Flowers, which I know Whitney had mentioned the May Flowers initiative that will be all throughout downtown. But a big feature of that will be in Mission Plaza. And so that's probably one of my favorite experiences right now. Whitney, what's yours?
I think I'm a little biased, but it's gonna be farmers market. I will put the farmers market Instagram in the chat if you have not been to our farmers market. Although what we are returning to on May 6th is a much smaller version of it. If you scroll back through the Instagram, you'll really get a feel for what we usually are and what we've been famous for. That's how I met Belle. We hosted Farm City Nights, a large scale event at farmers market. It is 5 blocks of just the community coming together. I think it's one of the most unique opportunities to bring different sectors of the community, bring diverse groups to all into Higuera Street to just meet and enjoy and have a common enjoyment of local food, fresh produce, live music. We look forward to getting back to that full scale farmers market. Again, May 6th, it will just be our farmers and a few other vendors, but it's good because at the heart of a farmers market are our farmers. So we want to put the spotlight on them, connect our local community to the fresh produce that we've been missing for over a year. But as Molly mentioned, we're very fortunate that I think there is a farmers market every day, except for I think Sunday, somewhere within San Luis Obispo, which is also unique. A lot of cities don't have that as an option. A lot of smaller towns maybe will just have one. So definitely farmers market. In terms of like my favorite meals and all that, Firestone Grill is a tried and true favorite, the tri-tip. If you come up here and want to try to do the tri-tip challenge, that involves hiking, eating, I have yet to do it. I think it's 3 different hikes. Is that right, Belle? I'm not sure. And then you get to eat it. You get to eat a tri-tip sandwich at Firestone. And I think there's t-shirts out there that you can buy that say I did the tri-tip challenge.
Yeah. The P, Mount Madonna, and then Bishops. That's the 3.
Yeah, so I mean, I was born and raised here. I did have to get out a little bit, spread my wings, but I came back. San Luis Obispo is great. It's fun. You get to know, like you'll walk downtown and see faces from growing up or from working, and everyone's just so friendly. Like even I, as a local, I'll be out somewhere, and even though I'm thinking about farmers market operations, I look lost, and someone will come up to me and ask like, oh, can I help you find this thing? So that's a comforting thing to know that, like, even though it may be a bigger town than you're used to, it may be a smaller town than you're used to. I think we meet the best of both of those worlds. And it's just really fun to be here, and it's beautiful. So there you go.
Chantal and Dusty, do you have any favorites?
I was torn between hiking, being outdoors, and eating. Two very polar opposites. I would like to do both. Better to do a quick hike when I'm short on time. I always like to go up to the M on Cerro San Luis. That's a great one. And then tonight, I would have to say I am craving the Chow Novo from Novo Restaurant. You can see in this picture for questions. They have a beautiful outdoor back patio right along the creek side, bistro lights, and all the food is amazing. But seriously, you can't go wrong. You have to try every hike. You have to try every restaurant. There's too many to name. Dusty, what about you?
Oh, golly. Oh, golly. For me, I said, if we were looking at, I know one of my favorite experiences, I know I'll be on Whitney's bandwagon. I do love the farmers market, our growing season, and how it allows us to have wonderful treasures kind of in a much longer time span than you might think. You know, I love food is my language. But you know, like being able to get squash blossoms all the way well into September is something like in most other places that would be unheard of. But also, you know, for hikes, you know, Reservoir Canyon is probably one of my absolute favorites. A little bit on the north side of the city. It's just a great way. It can be a really long hike or a much shorter one. It's kind of one of those ones that has some versatility to it. And I saw some restaurants for food. Now we're talking. I saw fish tacos were asked for specifically. So when we're talking fish tacos for me, it depends on what mood I'm in. I can go to Luna Red and chow down on their rockfish tacos, like get the plate of 9 that I'm sure is supposed to be shared. I don't share them. And then other ones like La Esquina has some wonderful fish tacos. And then recent new addition that opened during the pandemic downtown, Federico's. Not a fish taco, but their fish burrito was almost like a life-changing experience for me. I told them I would marry it if I wasn't already married. It was that delicious.
Dusty, how about vegan restaurants? Somebody was asking about vegan restaurants. You want to tell us a little bit about like Bliss Cafe, maybe?
You know, honest, and what I love about our, and again, back to our farmers and how we take care of them, you know, so many of our restaurants have really awesome vegan options. Bliss Cafe is definitely, it is like 100% vegan cafe, and they really have some really awesome options. I know Big Sky Cafe also will adapt most of their recipes to vegan, or also have very distinct vegan callouts on their menu that are also super good. I know I wanted to go back, maybe it's a little less about the fun eating things, but I saw a question farther back that was also about LGBTQ plus welcoming in San Luis Obispo. And I'll say it as also a member of the Pride Committee, also coming up on Central Coast Pride that we celebrate in San Luis Obispo. It is definitely a welcome community. Cal Poly themselves have their Pride and Diversity Center on campus. I work really closely with those students, as well as the Gala Pride and Diversity Center in downtown San Luis Obispo has a lot of great resources and connectivity for our LGBTQ plus people.
Thank you for all your answers to the previous question, and for Dusty for that. Yes, we do have that Pride Center on campus too, so thank you for mentioning that. I saw one, it kind of got lost in all of the food recommendations, which were great. For vegan restaurants though, Ziggy's is also one of my favorites. But I saw one about local musicians. If any of you have any ideas for where people could play, events, and also just overall question of if it's a big musical community.
It is definitely a big musical community. And I think that maybe Whitney can talk a little bit about maybe concerts in the plaza and what historically has happened there and the support of local musicians through that. But in addition, there are quite a number. Obviously, it's a different time right now. And as we are going through this time of COVID and all understanding kind of what the different regulations are in different places, it's been definitely tough for our local musicians without any question. However, as we finally have some guidance from the state and how we can gather and celebrate and have music in various locations, we're starting to see it come back. So first and foremost came the ability to have music at local restaurants as long as it was served, as long as it was played during the time where food was served and separated by certain distance and whatnot. And so you're starting to see music coming back, especially in the outdoor settings, of course, in the outdoor settings, at lots of our restaurants in and around our downtown and elsewhere. And all of those restaurants book the acts themselves. And so they work to find, local musicians and, and different folks that can play music or offer different musical experiences. And so that's always a great option. Whitney, can you talk a little bit at all about how you all source music talent for your various things?
Yeah, definitely. So in a normal time, we would be operating in June. Our Concerts in the Plaza series is typically what happens. It's a 13-week series. It's free every Friday. It's usually June to September. We look forward to bringing it back. Hopefully we can find some way to do that this summer. It remains to be known. Obviously guidelines and whatnot are changing, so we're keeping an eye on that. But Concerts in the Plaza happens in Mission Plaza, which we kind of talked about, Molly spoke to with the Mission Plaza pop-ups. With that concert series, we really do try to show off our local talent. So before we had to cancel the last season, we introduced a new component where we had a local showcase, and it was local artists, singer-songwriters that were opening acts, I guess you could call them, but it was all local talent. They went through an application process with us. It was just it was just so cool to see how much talent was coming out of our local community. 13 weeks of free performances. For those that weren't on the roster or didn't get into the lineup, Farmers Market every Thursday has 5 different locations for live entertainment. And we encourage everyone who wants to come out and perform to please reach out and do that. We've had some wonderful bands. There was one band that came out at this last year, and they created like a serious following. They were a bunch of Cal Poly students. They started with a small gathering of fans, and then I would have people calling me every week asking if that band was going to be there at the farmers market. It was pretty cool. So it's a great opportunity. It's great if you are an upcoming musician and maybe you're thinking of it as a career. Farmers market is actually a really great opportunity for you to get that exposure. In normal times, there's thousands of people walking by and they'll see you. We've had people get booked for wedding receptions from farmers market, for senior retirement events, like the whole gamut. It's pretty cool. But our downtown community definitely has a few local favorites like Bear Market Riot, Truth About Seafood. What other fun band names can I think of? Lauren Radis is a really talented musician. He's played at our farmers market. Damon Castillo is a popular one. There's just so much out here. And I think the music, we are a very outdoor community, and I think we really honor that with our music community. So you can find a way for it, even if you're just up and starting your musician career.
Thank you. That was great. I do agree. The music at Farmers Market is definitely one of the best parts. I'm not sure if any of you can answer this, but I think it's worth a shot. Do you know if there's any like allergen information about restaurants in SLO, or if restaurants are accommodating to that?
I don't know that there's any place that specifies it, but I can 100% tell you that the restaurants are accommodating to that. So especially here, and as we've talked about a lot, with all of the food being fresh and having chefs really take pride in the meals that they're preparing. Typically when you look at different menus, they'll even specify if it's gluten-free or if it's, whatever the different vegan or vegetarian or all of that. But you can also, typically request to any chef what you are, looking to modify within the meal that they're making, and they would be happy to accommodate it for you. I can say just from my personal experiences, oftentimes even here in SLO, when you ask, I want to ensure that this is gluten-free, or my niece cannot, can't eat egg. And so we always are asking about eggs. And oftentimes the chef will come out and specifically ask why you're asking the question, and so that they can better understand to make sure that they're preparing the meal that will best suit you. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were at one of our incredible steakhouses, Ox and Anchor, and one of the folks that we were dining with was vegan, and she, when she asked for vegan options that weren't automatically listed on the menu, again, the chef came out and specifically asked, what if it was a preference or an allergy, and in order to be able to accommodate the right meal for that individual. So definitely accommodating.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so it seems like we're kind of coming to the end. So I wanted to just ask one final question, and that's, do any of you have any last minute advice or words of wisdom for people coming to San Luis Obispo?
Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And I promise, once you see it, it's hard to experience from afar. And I know that that's a challenge, but let me speak from my personal experience that once you come here, once you experience it, you will fall in love and you will not want to leave. And I assure you that as students or as supporters of students, San Luis Obispo is an incredible and pretty special place. And we would be thrilled to have you here in our community.
I will second that. And I also encourage you to join a club. I think that's super important. There are so many cool clubs on that campus. Take advantage of it. You'll make some lifelong friends. I know I did that, and I'm so glad I did that.
My advice is come to SLO and try it all out for yourself.
I think my advice would be, we're a pretty darn stinking friendly community, and we're all here to welcome and help you become a true San Luis Obispan. So I think it's taking advantage of the resources, coming into the visitor center, I'll chat your ear off. Go, downtown SLO, say hey to Whitney. All of these resources about navigating our town, I would say as an incoming, coming into San Francisco, don't be shy about taking advantage of that and making those connections. We really do welcome you and want to support your San Francisco experience.
Those were all great answers. Thank you all so much. So that brings us to the end of our Q&A. And as you can see in the chat, just a huge thank you to everyone, to Whitney, Chantal, Molly, and Dusty for answering all the questions and for giving those amazing presentations, and to Lauren for her fun mocktails that they got to enjoy during it. We really appreciate you all taking the time to be here. And thank you all for being here. We're so excited that you're thinking of coming to SLO, and we're so happy that we get to share our home with you. So quickly, I just want to show these last two slides as a little wrap up. So this is the very first day of open house, and this was the kickoff event, but we do have a full week of very exciting events that we'd all love for you to attend. Just speaking of tomorrow, we have university welcomes. A lot of you did ask questions about Cal Poly specifically, and hopefully if you go to that, some of those questions will be answered there. And then on a little more fun note, Friday night invite is happening tomorrow. There'll be a lot of different games and social activities where you can meet fellow Cal Poly students that have been admitted, or people who are thinking of coming. Whichever group you fall into, it'd be really great to have you there. And also, this is just a reminder to download Cal Poly Now. This is where all the schedule of events will be. It is your ticket to open house. It's really helpful. The links will be there, event descriptions, as well as your chance. If you'd like to, you can accept your admins on there too. If you have any other questions, again, there'll be a lot of other events throughout the week. Thank you again for joining us. We're so happy that you were here. Have a good night.
Hi there, my name is Rafael. I'm a fourth-year journalism transfer student with a minor in Spanish, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Thank you for watching the video. Please share any questions or comments you have down below in the comment section, and go ahead and click here to subscribe, And to watch more videos, click here. If you want to sign up for a virtual visit or talk to any student or staff members, check out our website. Link in the description. Thank you for watching.